All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, then I'm in the lane. Variety, topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Nate the Great, coming to you live from the All Sports All Plays Network. I am here today with Christopher Mabry to talk about the Baltimore and Pittsburgh game. How are things going, Christopher?
They're doing good. Everything's doing good. How about with you?
I am doing well over here as well. So we just saw the Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens game, and the Ravens won that game 19-14. This Steelers defense has been dominant for a while. I'm not talking this season. I'm talking the past few seasons. I'm just going to throw out some stats to show you what I mean. The Steelers have now won 18 games with a defensive touchdown happening somewhere in that game. The last time they lost with that they had a defensive touchdown was in 2013. The Steelers defense has now 61 turnovers, takeaways since 2019, most in that time span, and in 3 consecutive games, the Steelers have allowed less than 20 points. Is there anyone on that defense, do you think, that should get the Defensive Player of the Year?
I just wish you could probably, I don't know if it's possible, but maybe give the whole defense, like, I know it's not possible, but some way where the entire defense could get it. But one player that kind of stands out to me is TJ Watt. Maybe he's probably the key piece for that Steelers. And I mean, there's a lot of them on there, but TJ Watt's kind of the person or the player that stands out to me, especially coming from that family of really good football players.
And Will Polson said Steelers won, but not the Ravens. Yeah, I thought that's what I said, but now on the Ravens side of the game, this is the first game where the Steelers have scored less than 20 points in that game. And they've done that with so many COVID-19 cases being involved. This is not the first game where there had been a limited number of practices or no practices at all, going from one week to another, where a team does really well. Not doesn't win, but does really well despite not having practice. Do you think it's because the players had a chance to rest up and be prepared for the game to come?
I think resting, no matter if it's a bye week due to COVID, I think at this point in the season, you need as much rest as possible, at least just to get through this season. I know, like for Pittsburgh, maybe it's a even though they won this week, coming off of a COVID week, they don't have any bye weeks. So you could say that this was kind of a mini bye week, even though they had to play. It was only a week, like an extra week. They didn't play on Thanksgiving, so I think they kind of treated it as a bye week. I think no matter what it is, a break of no practice can help.
And not only not only that so many of these players had COVID for the Baltimore Ravens that the practices had to get shut down, but you saw some players that didn't play today. Lamar Jackson being a very good one, and some people on the defensive side. I think there are 11 players in total who did not play this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think 20 players. I think they said this on the broadcast. 20 players had COVID-19, or 20 people had COVID-19. 13 players. I know they had to get 13 practice squad members.
Wow.
So that's a lot of players to fill up certain spots, including with your starting quarterback, who could be out next week or that Tuesday when they face Dallas.
So actually, the Steelers actually play. Oh wait, no, Baltimore. You're thinking of Baltimore. Baltimore plays Dallas on Monday. So do the Steelers as well. This game, because of the Steelers win, the Ravens. It's just now between the Steelers and the Browns for who can win that AFC North. Well, we all know it's probably going to be the Steelers at some point. But Will Polston said that the Ravens are without Lamar, without Ingram, without J.K. Dobbins, which is tough. And yes, and they still kept this game close.
Mhm.
And yeah, I get that it's an AFC North matchup. Yeah, I get that Steelers and Ravens um are all have always been competitive in games past, but you saw they were out with that number of players, and they still put up a decent game. Now, the first touchdown was the second touchdown was the first down that whole game for the Baltimore Ravens. So do you think that's something? Is that their biggest need that they think? Well, I know they've had those many players on COVID. But is that their biggest thing that they need to address heading into this next week against when playing against Dallas?
Well, I know too that Ravens had a couple interceptions. They probably the biggest need would be possibly trying to get that quarterback situation going. I mean, yeah, they have RG3, and he did play well. I mean, he did have one that I know of, one play where he went for like 20 or 30 yards, which he looked like his old Washington when he played in Washington. But I would say, the quarterback, running back, because there was a fumble somewhere in there.
Yeah, the first touchdown drive was off of a Pittsburgh fumble for Baltimore, and the first Pittsburgh touchdown was off of McKenna Fitzpatrick. So when it comes to this game, who would you give the game ball to? What player?
Game ball would probably go to Big Ben, I would say, because he's kind of leading the charge with this Pittsburgh Steelers team. And you can probably say that too with Mike Tomlin. I think I heard maybe it was a couple weeks ago or about a month ago, I can't remember, that since taking over for the Steelers at head coach, Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in his coaching tenure. And Big Ben he didn't play last year, and I kind of feel like this is kind of his comeback year.
Mm-hmm. The one interception for the defensive player that was off of Joe Hayden, who got that touchdown that came back from who got that touchdown off of the interception. I would actually give the game ball to I would give that game ball to Joe Hayden for a pick six return. And you notice I have not give a game ball to a quarterback so far. I'm still going to keep it that way. I'm going to go with Joe Hayden because he had that interception pick six, and he said that Joe Hayden, the pick six was a low scoring game. Pick six in a low scoring game gets you the game ball. Yeah.
Pick sixes are good. I mean, in a low scoring game like that, you take any points you can. And even the Ravens I think it was in the beginning, it was either the beginning of the game or the second quarter. The Steelers were going to have the ball. Ravens were kicking off, and Jim Harbaugh was on special teams before he was the head coach, and I think he kind of drew up that call where they just batted it down and took the ball out of Pittsburgh's hands. It was like after a touchdown play.
So, as of the Steelers and Ravens standpoint, that's all I have. Do you have anything else before I address to the rest of this week as a quick recap?
I thought it was a good game, even though it was a low scoring game. I thought both teams played well coming off of a longer week. I think Ravens didn't play or practiced for about 10 days, and I know the NFL shut down league facilities for Monday and Tuesday. So neither team really had much of a practice schedule. They both played really well. So, I mean, even though Pittsburgh won, both teams got to be happy, at least happy that, they got the game going off today.
So Will said that Nate, how many more games before the Ravens are eliminated? Well, actually, I don't know. They go, but as of the division standpoint, they are not going to be a division winner as like they were last year. It's either going to be which probably going to be the Steelers, but it's just Steelers and Browns that are left. And on the Steelers' standpoint, they're probably going to make the playoffs anyways, but they can get the playoffs with a win over Washington next week. They have a tough schedule coming up. They play the Washington football team, and then they play Buffalo at one point, and they play the Colts. Do you expect the Steelers to continue their undefeated record, or do you think that they're probably going to lose maybe one or two more games?
From what it looks like, it kind of looks like they're going to continue their winning streak. But as for the last few weeks, I think Washington is on like a 3-game winning streak. Either that or the Giants, I can't remember. But I think Washington is on a little bit of a winning streak. And with Alex Smith coming in there, leading the way for him, I mean, it's going to be close. Who's going to get that division in the NFC East? But they're going to make it competitive, and maybe, I mean, Alex Smith could take down Pittsburgh. He's done it before when he was when he was with Kansas City.
Well, here's the rest of their schedule. On Monday, they play the Washington football team. It's a home game. That's probably going to be their win. That's probably going to be a win. They play the Buffalo Bills away. That's probably going to be a loss. They play the Bengals away. That's probably going to be an easy win. Sorry, Coach Cam, if you're watching this right now. They play the Colts at home. They play the Browns away. So, out of all of that, I can see. I don't think I could see them winning 3 of their games. I cannot. I think that they're going to lose to the Colts, and I think they're going to lose to the Bills. Is that the same thing, or do you have more than 2 losses?
I can see him losing to Washington and
Oof.
maybe Cleveland.
And Will Polson said they need to get James Conner back because their offense is really sketchy without a run game. That is true. Now going on the Ravens standpoint, the Ravens had. We talked about the number of people that they had on COVID reserve. Let's look on their schedule real quick. They played Dallas, which is probably going to be an easy. That's probably going to be a win. They play the Browns away, which that might be a win. They play the Jaguars, which is an easy win. They play the New York Giants. Probably that might be a win. They play the bit. I could see them going 5-0 out of the next 5 games because they have their hardest schedule on the road coming up is against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that game's going to be tough. But the way the season's playing out, I mean, between that, I think they moved it to Tuesday, but that Dallas Ravens game, both teams have had their highs and their lows. It just depends on which team from either side comes out and how they play. I mean, Baltimore played well today. Dallas has been playing well, even though they've had a losing streak, but they've showed promise in a couple areas. I think it might go Baltimore, but I mean, I don't know.
Will Polson, he says that if they play like they played today, they'll drop against the Bills, the Colts, and the Browns. The Bills and the Colts, I definitely agree. The Browns, I can also agree with, but I can also see them losing the Browns if they rest their starters. And if they're in a position to rest their starters, is what I should say. But
it was kind of under the radar, though. I mean, they're quietly, climbing the ladder, and they're really competing with the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
And who's going to get that first place position?
Wait, hold on. Miami Dolphins for the first place position?
Well, yeah, for the first place position in the AFC East.
Oh, you're talking about the Bills. I thought you were talking about the I thought you were talking about the Browns. I think the Browns are going to be like how the Cowboys were and how this game was, is where they probably should have lost, lose that game, but they're going to eventually find some way to pull off with that win. Chase Anderson, he says that the Ravens are going to finish 10-6 or 9-7. And yes, I agree with that as well. I can easily see the Ravens winning the next 5 games because they have an easy schedule coming up, especially against the Bengals.
Well, I mean, easy schedules.
When looking at
when people Go ahead.
No, you go. Actually, I'll wait.
Okay. Or, when they say easy schedule, that doesn't always turn out to be an easy schedule. They say that in the beginning of the year, and then depending on the situation, it'll go good or go terribly wrong.
That's true. Especially with COVID going around, we never know what's going to happen.
Right.
The Cardinals should have beat the Patriots for crying out loud. But the Cardinals didn't, and the Patriots won by 1 field goal.
That was a no-biter for Cardinals fans, probably.
Which leads into the next segment. With the NFC West going on, it's a very competitive division, and you have the 49ers even who are keeping it really, really competitive. The Cardinals are also, even though they lost, they're still having a winning record and playing really good. And then you have the Seattle Seahawks probably going to win it, but I still want to hear what your thoughts were on it. And then they have the Los Angeles Rams who are doing phenomenal as well. Who do you have winning the NFC West?
I got Arizona winning the NFC West. I mean,
Arizona?
Arizona. I mean, Seattle's good. San Francisco, they were good, but they lost Garoppolo and Kittle. And then they're also kind of lost their home for the next at least 2 home games due to California restrictions. But it seems like Arizona has been playing well. They've improved. Uh, way they improved from what they did last year. And Kyler Murray has been a good piece for him.
Well, so I want to address something that was been addressed on Real Talk. Arizona Cardinals, they're one Hail Mary away from losing 4 straight games.
Wow.
They have, if it wasn't for that one epic Hail Mary against the Buffalo Bills, they would have lost the last 4 games.
Ooh.
And so do you think that they will, make that? You still think that they will make that final spot? I mean, win the division?
It depends on how the season goes, but I mean, it looks like if they play well, they could probably get that NFC West division title. If not, I at least think they get one of the 3 wild card spots for this year.
A wild card spot, maybe. I just can't see them winning that division. With Seattle doing as well as they were, with the Rams maybe pulling it off. I can't give it to Arizona. I can't give it to San Francisco. Even though any one of those 4 teams can, I can't. I just can't see it. Now, I bring the San Francisco 49ers up because if you get rid of the records, most of the games that they have coming up are division rival games. They play the Cardinals at one point. I think they play the Rams. No, they don't play the Rams. They play. They play the Bills. Oh no, they play the Cardinals and they play the Seahawks. But the rest of the teams are, they play the Bills on Monday. They play the Cowboys, and they play Washington. Do you think that the 49ers will get that last seed, or would you give it to Arizona with how poorly they've been doing?
I'd give it to Arizona. I mean, you don't have Kittle, you don't have Garoppolo. Things have been kind of going out of control. Uh, this season with COVID and all that. They don't really have a home stadium. There's no crowds, and if there is, they're sparse. Uh, it just hasn't been a good year for San Francisco.
Yeah. I'm gonna. I still think that the Cardinals will get the third seed. Really because of what's going on with San Francisco. Every single game, being at a different stadium than their actual home stadium. I think that it's just been rough this year with a number of injuries. I mean, injuries have affected so many teams, but you get the point. There's so many. The quarterbacks been hurt. You've had you you've had other people that have been hurt, and uh, so I don't think the 49ers will make it. Will says the Cardinals are holding on to the seventh spot with teams like Chicago, San Francisco, Minnesota behind them, and they have a much easier schedules than the Cardinals. Um, I, I, I think the Rams will make it. I think Seattle will make it. Question on Arizona, and then San Francisco is going to get that last seed. And then the last thing I wanted to address before we give this a close. Chicago and Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay won that game. It was the Sunday night game, 41-25. Actually, 6 points off of my prediction of a 40-20 game. But Chicago's defense was not at all what we expected was going to be heading into that game. Do you think it's just because of it was just that one game that it happened, and you think Chicago's defense will be better heading down the road, or do you think something happened in this game it's gonna tremble on downward?
I think it's gonna go downward. I mean, whatever happens in one game, it's gonna be hard to fix it unless you do something, bring a player in or something. But I don't think it's gonna help with the remainder of their schedule. They're gonna have to find some new players heading into 2021. But I think it's going to be a downhill spiral for the remainder of the season.
Well, so Aaron Rodgers, he threw 4 touchdowns on that game, but part of those touchdowns, I thought, if they could have just handed it to Aaron Jones to rush in. But he threw 4 touchdowns to 4 different players, and they were all wide open. And Will says hard on the defense to be good when they are on the field for 37-44. That's almost 2/3 of the game, and that is true. Denver had a big problem with that in years past. Ever since Peyton Manning left, Denver had the same issue. But it was all wide open. Some of these guys were wide open, and even though Green Bay, I mean, even though he threw them, I still think that he was kind of being a little braggy in a way, cocky in a way. How would you rate Aaron Rodgers' performance in that game? That's the final question.
I thought Aaron Rodgers played well. I mean, he plays well in a lot of games, but I think when he does win, he kind of gets a big head, so to speak. Like he's really confident about what he does, and I mean, as a quarterback, you should. But I kind of feel like he gives all of the credit to himself and not the team. That's just what I see from it when he does interviews. Now maybe he doesn't, you know, behind closed doors in a locker room, but that's just the way I get from it. But I mean, we've seen, big games with Aaron Rodgers, and maybe it was a good game for him. Maybe not the best of what we saw from him. Uh, and especially against a common opponent in your division like Chicago.
Okay, so that was all I had. Any final comments before we go with the ads and close this out?
It's been a crazy week, as far as NFL goes. Hopefully, we get the final stretch down and are done and get to the playoffs.
Oh, okay. I think it's been a crazy week, the longest week in the NFL, going from 12:30 on Thanksgiving Day till now. And that's all I had. And just a quick reminder, if you wanted to win a free ASAP t-shirt, just like, comment, and share this video or other videos that have been happening through the month. And if you're shy, if you didn't have time to watch it because it was an early game or whatever, you can also buy an ASAP t-shirt. It says $25 plus shipping and handling on there, but remember, we have that deal going on with $14.99 for that time offer. It's Christmas rolling around. You can buy one for yourself. You can buy one for a family member, a friend, and you can also buy it to a neighbor or whatever. And that's all I had. It's Nate the Great and Christopher Mabry signing out for now.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics never the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.